Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope you are doing well. Another very interesting day in the markets. The VIX is up close to 5%, still responding to geopolitical tensions, primarily between Russia and Ukraine, and some ambiguity regarding how Trump and his administration are going to deal with the Ukraine-Russia conflict, especially as it compares to how Joe Biden and his administration have been dealing with it. The Dow Jones, Nasdaq, and S&P, let's call them flat today, even though the VIX was up. The dollar index, which I'm keeping a very close eye on, was up less than half a percentage point, which is not good for risk assets if it continues to be strong, or if it continues to rise in strength. The dollar, that is not good for risk assets, because that means money will move back into treasuries. But I don't think that that's going to happen. Liquidity is rising globally, and I think the tide is turning very firmly to being a risk on market, and it will continue to do so, I think, with ups and it will zig and zag on its way up. But the general trend is still very bullish for the market. I do think right now we're entering a period where we're sort of digesting the gains that we got. We may chop a bit at the levels we are at, but I don't expect a substantial pullback, not until next year, basically. Tesla's at 340, which is near its highs for the year. Nvidia reported earnings. We'll talk about those earnings in a second. So actually, I'll talk about them right now. Nvidia beat Q3 earnings in a big way. It smashed Q3 earnings. Revenue's up 94% compared to last year. Operating income up 110%. Earnings per share up 111%. Data center revenue 112%. Gaming revenue plus 15%. And it's expected that the stock is going to do, or the business rather, is going to do another 50% in growth next year. Now, the reason why it's down after hours, probably investors don't really have a really hot appetite to be buying at all-time highs, but eventually they will, and they'll make new all-time highs. I don't really think you can expect much of a better report than what we got from Nvidia after market close. As it relates to Bitcoin miners, they continue to underperform as when compared to Bitcoin. Bitcoin has had a much more solid and a robust run than Bitcoin miners have. Bitcoin miners, take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and that can be frustrating for many investors. But I do think that their day will come, sort of like MicroStrategy's day has come, and every day it seems, it's making new all-time highs. Today, actually, MicroStrategy was the most traded stock in the United States, beating out Tesla and Nvidia, which is wild when you think about it. They don't actually have a product or service. They just issue equity and buy Bitcoin, and issue debt and buy Bitcoin with the proceeds. So it gives you a idea of how much bullishness there is around Bitcoin. But I don't think that this necessarily can continue. It's now trading multiple times what it actually holds in Bitcoin. Now, I understand that the appeal of MicroStrategy is not just what it holds in Bitcoin. Markets are forward-looking, and they're trying to estimate, what can be with regards to MicroStrategy, especially if it continues with its strategy that has worked for it so well. The issue I see with MicroStrategy and maintaining these valuations is that other companies can do this. It's not just MicroStrategy that can do it. So I don't really see why. It's surprising to me that more companies haven't basically copied MicroStrategy's blueprint. We're seeing other companies start with their own sort of MicroStrategy approach to buying Bitcoin, issuing equity, issuing debt at very low interest rates, and in the case of MicroStrategy, 0% interest rate, and using that money to buy Bitcoin. Other companies are doing it, and those other companies are going to be the target of investors who, want to replicate the performance of MicroStrategy in their own portfolios. So I don't really think that the premium that MicroStrategy currently supports is sustainable in the long run, but in the short term, I think it's probably very enjoyable for MicroStrategy holders. Again, I stayed away from MicroStrategy just because of its business model employing interest-bearing debt in order to operate. Interest-bearing debt is a material part of their business model, and that's why I haven't invested in MicroStrategy. Looking at gold, up a tad, which is to be expected. The VIX is up close to 5%, 2 days in a row now. Silver is pretty much flat. Oil is down 0.38%. Bitcoin, 94,277. I can't believe I'm saying that. Actually, I can believe I'm saying that, but it's finally here. We've been saying for the longest time that we thought we'd get here. And, when it was at 60 and I was saying I thought it would reach 100 by the end of the year, and there was basically 2 months left, it did appear that that probability was becoming more and more remote. But here we are, a stone's throw away from 100K, and we'll probably get there, inshallah, by the end of the year, and probably more than that. Doge is at 37 cents. Again, I think it's digesting some of the gains that it gained, but I think that there's more upside here. And Solana, $236. Something very interesting about Solana is that its 7-day fees have actually exceeded Ethereum's 7-day fees. So the 7-day fees for the blockchain, let me see if I can pull that up. The 7-day fees for its blockchain have actually exceeded, generated by the Solana blockchain, have actually exceeded those generated by Ethereum in the last 7 days. So you can see here, Solana 62 million, Ethereum 60 million. And keep in mind, Ethereum is valued around 4 times as high as Solana is. So you can kind of see the writing on the wall here with regards to price action. But really, it's going to be a continuation of the price action that we've seen in the last months, wherein Solana is gaining ground against Ethereum. I fully expect that to continue. Now, as it relates to MicroStrategy, we mentioned that it was the most traded stock in the United States today. You can see Nvidia and Tesla following behind MicroStrategy. And in terms of return year to date, it's up close to 600%. Again, this is not something that wasn't on my radar. It was on my radar, but I chose not to invest in it because of its using interest-bearing debt in its business model. And whenever you leave something for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring something that's even better than it for you. And I fully believe that that's the case here. Something very interesting that Elon Musk has been saying in the past couple of days. So in 2026 is his prediction that we'll have AGI. So this, this relates to basically a general intelligence solution. 2026. I mean, we're talking, and he mentioned at the latest. So it's very close. Optimus is really going to be next level. It will be able to pick up your kids from school. It can be schools for your kids. Humanoid robots will usher in a new age of abundance that's hard to imagine. There will be no shortage of goods and services. Optimus will likely cost 20 to 30,000 at scale. It will cost less to make an Optimus than a car, and the ratio of humanoid robots will be more than 1-to-1, probably 10-to-1. So there will be in excess of 10 billion humanoid robots. So imagine a capable humanoid robot that is equipped with AGI. How useful that would be. You basically have a servant that is, very, very capable in every way. Imagine what the demand for something like that would be if it cost 20 to 30,000. I mean, people would take out loans to buy it. So this just goes to illustrate the upside that Tesla as a company has. Basically, the demand for Optimus, if this turns out true, these forecasts turn out true, the demand for it will be infinite. As much as they can make, that's what the demand will be. And really, they have a very strong pricing power as well. So the margins will be very good as well, because if it is as useful as it is being advertised to be, then people are going to pay top dollar for it. So I really think that we are approaching, these coming months are basically the remaining months that you have as an investor to build up a full position in Tesla. If you haven't been prioritizing that, I think you should. Not financial advice, just my thoughts, sharing them out loud. I was asked yesterday, do I think that Tesla will reach 5K by the end of, or in a decade, in 10 years, will it reach $5,000 per share? And I actually think it probably will reach that in the next, probably by 2030. So almost 5-6 years. And so, yeah, very interesting times. I think as it relates to Tesla, having a sense of urgency is appropriate with regarding to filling your bags there. I do think you have a few months before things get really crazy. So maybe it takes until the second half of 2025, but something that I'm certainly prioritizing in my mind. So with that being said, by the way, I would be remiss not to mention we do have our promotion going on, 35% off premium and elite plans, basically all of our paid plans for PIF membership. With the elite plan, you get access to our course, and that promotion is ending soon. And so if you're interested in becoming a PIF member, make sure to sign up in the time remaining to become a PIF member. We'd love to have you in our community. And with that, let's take some questions. Himi, dear cool. Assalamu alaikum, brothers. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Salam Rashad. Nice to see you. Apparently, Michael Saylor will be meeting Microsoft with regards to buying BTC. That would be interesting, and it's certainly in his favor for as many people to be interested in using BTC as a reserve asset as possible. And really, we're seeing the dominoes fall here in terms of corporate treasuries resorting to Bitcoin to preserve their purchasing power, which is currently being held in cash. And on the level of sovereign states, we're seeing this as well. So candidates for positions of power in many different countries are talking about using Bitcoin. The president-elect in this country has promised many things with regards to Bitcoin and crypto generally, and they've been talking about having a White House position that is just dedicated to crypto. So they're very serious about it. And you're going to see this cascade into countries across the globe. And so 2025 is probably going to be a really crazy year for Bitcoin and other risk assets, and a really, inshallah, great year for our investments, Bismillah. So very excited about the upcoming time. Should we be worried about the dollar index showing strength, given that this level increases the real interest expense paid on the U.S. debt? I do think that the dollar index is something to keep an eye out on. That being said, I do think the path that we're on is probably not going to be changed in the next few months. It'll take longer than that. And the path that we're on right now is one of increasing liquidity globally, not just in the US, and a very acute need to reduce the interest expense that the United States is paying, and therefore lower interest rates even further in order to accomplish this. And this will mean lower interest rates will mean a weaker dollar. And this is something, so Rashad mentions, in addition to effective tariffs proposed by Trump. So the combination of tariffs and if we had something like a mass deportation of illegal immigrants, that is inflationary. The tariffs will be inflationary. The deportation of illegal immigrants will be deflationary. And that will work against any movements to reduce interest rates. Now, because reducing interest rates is inflationary, all else being equal. Like I said, for the next few months, I think that we are safe from the impacts of these policies. Since these policies have not been implemented yet, and they will take time to be implemented if they are indeed implemented. And also, we don't really have much detail about how they will be implemented. So I think it's probably premature to act on them at this point in the market. Dr. Boss says, Assalamu alaikum. Does Berkshire Buffett huge cash pile give concern for increased risk of major correction? Well, if you'll notice that Berkshire's cash pile is not anything new. It has been accumulating for years now. And I do feel like there's been a lot of opportunities that have been missed because of this sitting on the sidelines with all that money. Yeah, you're earning 5% on your treasury bonds, risk free, basically. But there were, I think, a lot of compelling investment opportunities during this time. But I think what is holding Berkshire back is it has so much money, small opportunities don't really make sense for it to bother with them in the first place. You know, if something is sub 10, 20 billion, it's almost not even worth Berkshire's time when you're dealing with hundreds of billions in cash. It's not worth Berkshire's time to even consider that as an investment and take on the risk of buying it and so on. And also Berkshire and Warren Buffett's discomfort with things that are technology related in terms of investing really limits the opportunities that they have to consider. So when you look at things like Elon Musk's predictions with regards to AGI, you can surmise that there are a lot of opportunities that are related to these developments in technology that will start suggesting themselves on the investment scene. And they will grow many X's in the next few years. And if you're discerning with regards to where you put your money, I think that you'll do very, very well if you're investing in these fields in a intelligent way. It's just the case that Berkshire has so much money and it's not really interested in investing this dynamic, investing in technology. This dynamic has caused it to have a pretty large cash pile. And in some areas of the market, sure, I will admit that some areas of the market are frothy. But if you are discerning in where you're putting your investment dollars, I think there's an abundance of opportunity out there as well. So as it relates to meme coins, my very sort of succinct position with regards to whether I'm comfortable or uncomfortable investing in them from a halal perspective. My position is that meme coins are means of exchange, and they exist. They're actual assets that are being traded, and therefore, and speculation in and of itself is not haram. There's no objective measure of how much speculation is haram versus not. Speculation and gambling, this is something that people get mixed up a lot. They are not the same thing. Uh, Every type of trade almost involves speculation. Gambling relates to wagering money in a zero sum game where there is no good or service being exchanged. In the case of trading, meme coins, baseball cards, rocks, anything, this is totally fine, even if the thing involves, even if the trade involves, trying to predict what the future price of it is going to be. This is what trade is all about, after all. So I don't really see anything fundamentally wrong with trading meme coins. At the very least, in terms of utility, they are means of exchange. I can send a meme coin on the Solana blockchain to someone in Egypt who did a service for me and pay him for his services in that manner. I can send it to Indonesia. I can send it across the globe in seconds and pay very little fees and make a payment that way. So in this regard, it is something that is useful, and trading it, I don't see anything fundamentally wrong with. That being said, 99.9% of meme coins, especially nowadays, are just scams. They are, well, yeah, well, I'll say not scams, but things that will eventually go to zero. And so you're taking on a huge amount of risk buying a meme coin, especially the meme coins that I would say stay away from any meme coins where the founders are not known, how it started is not known, it didn't have a fair launch, and it's very concentrated in terms of its supply in a very small number of people, because then you're basically taking, I think, a huge risk with your money, and it's very likely that you get bitten, you get hurt by investing in that way. So I'm while I'm comfortable with meme coins as a concept in terms of their halalness, if you will, I think extreme caution needs to be exercised when you are investing in that space. Hannibal says, do you still think holding Bitcoin miners is better than holding the underlying asset? Well, I think it depends on the Bitcoin miner, but I do think that they still serve a purpose if you're looking for a leverage play on Bitcoin itself, and that's why we hold them. I can't say whether Solana is going to surpass ETH in the near future, but what I can say is that certainly the trend is in this direction. And I don't see any reason for this trend to not continue. Solana is clearly winning, and if you look at daily active users, if you look at number of daily transactions, and now recently, something that Ethereum used to always hold the crown for, recently Solana has beat Ethereum in fees as well. So I don't really see any reason why Ethereum would be valued more than Solana. In the short term, the market is a voting machine. In the long term, it is a weighing machine. So eventually, the true weight of these blockchains will express itself in the market caps for these blockchains. Yeah, so bonds are a type of debt, and this debt is issued for a benefit for the lender. That's the reason why the lenders are issuing this debt. And when A debt is issued, a loan is issued in order to benefit the lender, not as an act of charity. This is a loan with riba. Allahu alam. So at current, this is a good question. And Hannibal asks, Assalamu alaikum, alaikum salam. How profitable are the Bitcoin miners at the current Bitcoin prices? Depending on who you ask, the average all-in cost for mining a Bitcoin right now is between 70 and 80,000 for the public Bitcoin miners. Right now at 95,000, they're printing money. Alaikum salam, Abdullah. Nice to see you. Thanks, Niz. I really appreciate it. Niz says, Salam all. Glad I snagged a discounted renewal on Elite. My family has found the education content and, of course, the stock calls hugely beneficial. Alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah khair. Wa yakum. Niz, it's awesome to have you as a member. And thanks for saying that. I really appreciate it. Oh, and like the live, guys, please. Let's get this live to 100 likes. That would be awesome. Sami says, Salam Rakaan. Wa alaikum salam, Sami. In case of a nuclear attack happens from Russia or NATO, is the right move to sell everything and cash out or wait out a bit to see what will happen? Well, I think that would be very unfortunate and tragic. Let's hope it doesn't happen, and I honestly don't think it will happen. I think it will be, probably the dumbest decision ever in history for anyone to use a nuclear bomb in these conditions. And there's absolutely no need to at all. Neither country is threatened in terms of its actual existence. Their stated goals are a stretch of land that isn't even that desirable, if we're being completely transparent. So, yeah, let's hope that doesn't happen. But in cases of extreme panic, like what I was very aware of during the 2008 2009 crisis and the stock market crash there, I'm thinking about buying, not selling. Because eventually a recovery will happen, and the sources of wealth for humanity have been these companies that have, these are basically the sources of value creation for humanity. And so if they go on a discount, I will be thinking about buying them, not selling. Yeah, Abdullah, I am thinking about taking a look at SMCI. But, I don't, the number one goal in investing is preservation of capital. So unless something is screaming back up the truck, I'm not going to, and the risk profile is clear, I'm not going to risk my capital. I've been hearing hype about XRP for years. And if you look at its performance, even if you, let's, um, So if we look at XRP, let's say in the last year, it's up 82%. And if we were to compare that to Bitcoin, for example, it's up 150%. So yeah, it's had a pretty noteworthy spike, and I understand why people are talking about it right now. But last time I looked at it, I wasn't really that impressed. I didn't really see the appeal, and so I passed. And until I look at it again, that will be my position. Yeah, I think, Sammy, BYD is the most credible competitor to Tesla, and it's not even close. It's going to be BYD and Tesla. Where Tesla has an advantage is in all of the other things it has its hands in, including full self-driving, which I'm sure BYD is working on. I mean, they have to be, but I haven't really seen any demonstrations of their capabilities. But in terms of the future, it is becoming more and more apparent that the leading country for the EV companies of the future will be China. It's not going to be Japan. It's not going to be South Korea. It's not going to be Germany as it was in the previous century. The leading country is going to be China. And in the US, there's basically only Tesla. But BYD is a close second, I think. Thoughts on Ethereum? I don't like it. It's expensive. It's slow. Clunky. It's just a engineering monstrosity that is overvalued. Yeah, I think if you participate in something that you know is a pump and dump, of course that this is something that is haram. Of course. I mean, just use your common sense. It's my pleasure. Pasero says, Jazakallah for answering the question. When do you think S&P 500 companies will start having Bitcoin on their balance sheet? I think very soon. I think probably, I mean, obviously Tesla already has it, but you're going to see companies start to compete, countries start to compete, and it's going to be, every other day you're going to get a headline where once this, game theory starts kicking off and this snowball gains enough momentum, it's going to be like every other day you hear another company, another country is adding Bitcoin as a reserve asset. I really think that we're approaching that. And that's why I think 2025 is going to be an extremely exciting year for investors. And I think there will be a lot of gains to be made in 2025. I'm very excited about it. If you'd like to join us on our investing journey, then be sure to do so in the time remaining in our promotion. It's in the description. If you use the code Buran24, you get 35% off of our premium and elite membership plans. So do that and join our community while the promotion lasts. If you haven't left a like, please do leave a like. I'd really appreciate that. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and Until next time, make sure to take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum and peace be upon you all.